Hi friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the first winter market vlog of 2025. I'm so excited. I have been looking forward toward this season for such a long time and now it's finally here. It is the day of my market, so it's Friday, November 14th, which feels kind of early for a Christmas market, but still here we are and I'm super excited. The market starts this afternoon at 4. So we will have to leave in the early afternoon to set up. I have been to this market before. I did this market last year. It was also my first Christmas market last year, so I had to go back to this one. And this year we actually will be back later on in the season. So I'm doing this market today and tomorrow. And then I will be back at the venue starting December 15th all the way until December 23rd. So this feels kind of like a tryout for the actual bigger, longer market that we will be doing at the venue later in the season. But now, as you can see, I already pulled out all of my inventory. The other box is here. And then I also have all of the plushies I prepped in the past few weeks. And since the venue is super small, so we will be setting up in a bigger tent with 6 vendors in the tent, and you get a very small space to set up. So I will only have a 4-foot table as my whole display. And last year it was like super cramped also like behind the tables. So I really want to prep my inventory in a way that makes sense so that I can easily pull out the things that I need. So my goal is to actually condense everything into these 2 bins. So we will have to go through all of the things that I made in the past few weeks and through all of this and see what I want to take. For example, I can already see I have like 15 chickens and there's no way I will be selling 15 of them or I will need all of them, and they're pretty chunky, so they take up quite a lot of space in my inventory, so I will like not take half of them. So that is the goal for right now. I only have like 15 minutes to do that because then after that we will actually be going out for brunch and then I will come back, pack my car, and we will drive to the venue, have the first Christmas market. I'm so excited. Today is 6 hours of market, so it starts at 4 and ends at 10. The market runs until 11, but the indoors vendors, so in the tents, there's 2 little tents with 6 vendors each. We are allowed to close up for the night at 10 and then they close up and lock the tent. I will show you all of that a little later in the video, but yeah, so 6 hours of market, kind of like a cozy getting into the whole spirit thing. I also put on one of my Christmas sweaters so that I am getting a little more into the mood of the Christmas season. It's supposed to be 20 degrees Celsius today, so that is not very Christmassy, but still we will try our best and yeah, start the winter market season. Okay, so as I said, the first thing that I want to go through are all of the chickens. I think I'll take like one of each color and put the rest of them out and keep them somewhere else in the studio. So if they do sell really good tonight, I can always pack more for tomorrow, but I kind of need the space in here. And now we have all of this to go through, which are all of the plushies I made since my last fall market. I have some more set up on my shelf from last week, so I want to pack at least a couple of the bigger items from over there as well. But in here should be a lot of duplicates that I already have in my market bin because they were bestsellers and I wanted to restock some of them. But yeah, I will go through that. I also wanted to show you what I made this week because I've been really channeling the Christmas spirit this week and I started to make some Christmas plushies. So I made these Christmas tree pops. So I have this one and these pop like up and down. I have this one with the green, red and white speckle. I have this one with the green glitter. Not sure if you can tell on camera. And then we have the little party speckle, so like a darker turquoise-ish. And I think these are so fun. So I've been really wanting to make them, and these are like very seasonal, so I don't get to make them a lot. So this week I really went crazy with them, and I made 7 of those in total. So here they all are. And I made 5 in this speckle yarn, and then 1 of each of the other types. I really wanted to use up this speckle yarn because it's like very seasonal. So I made 5 of them, and that ended up working out perfectly. So I'm really glad that that worked out. I'm also really sorry if you can hear background noise. There's like a huge construction outside of my studio, and today's Friday, so it's a work day, and they're currently ripping apart the street for some reason. So I'm sorry if you can hear that. But yeah, these I definitely want to pack. I will not be packing the chubby birds that I made in the past few weeks because I still have quite a good amount for those. But since they're bestsellers, I always want to keep up the numbers. So I prepped some more, but I will not be taking them. The capybara that I made, I will of course be taking because I don't have any else. And then I made this cat, which is white with like a little speckle, and I definitely want to pack that because I think it's kind of cute, and I want to see how a speckled cat will do at my market. So this will be packed definitely. I'm trying to not run out of space here. Then I have the whole penguin army, the mini penguin army. I made 50 of these over the course of the past few weeks, and they will be going into my minis bin, so I kind of have a lot of space there. So I will actually try and pack them all, not because I think I will need them all, but because, as you can tell, they're currently not tagged. So while I'm at the market today, I will definitely have the time to actually tag them all. So that is why I will be taking them, and we'll be finishing them up there, I guess. So let me pack them all into here, and then we will move on to everything else and deciding if that will be packed or not. Okay, since I'm running a little late, I went through all of my inventory that I prepped in the past few weeks, and I have already decided what I will pack or not. So as I said, all 3 pops, the capybara will be coming. I actually realized I will need to pack some chubby penguins because I currently only have 2 left in my market bin because they have been selling so well. So I decided to take like half of them, which I prepped in the past few weeks. 1 of the 2 cows, 1 of the 2 foxes, both reindeers, the 2 brontosaurus colors where I don't have any duplicates, some cats, especially speckled, some turtles because they've been so popular, and like all of the colors that I currently don't have any duplicates of, my big Labrador dog that I made, and then 2 out of the 4 hoodie bears will be coming, and the other 2 will stay behind and wait for their time to shine. So this is everything I still need to tag. I will try and go ahead and tag all of that really quickly, put it into the bin, and then, as I said, I will be heading out for brunch. And yeah, I will see you probably when the car is packed and we're on the way to the venue. Hey guys, it's now quite a while later. As you can probably tell, I'm at the venue. I have my whole car packed and I'm about to check in there and set up. I don't have a table or chairs because the venue provides that, so that is awesome. And as I said before, because I did this market last year, I already know that the space in there is pretty tight. So I will try and do my best to take you guys along for the setup, but we will see what the footage says. So let's go. Okay, friends, so I just set up my table. As you saw, I couldn't really film the setup because, as you've heard from me, it's very tight spaces in the little tent. There just isn't a lot of space to put up a camera or be able to film anything in an angle where you would actually be able to see something. So yeah, the setup is complete. I kind of split my table into two parts. So one part is candles with a little shelf on top of the table, and then the other half is plushies with a little shelf in front of the table. I'm hoping that it's okay that I put the little shelf in front of the table. Nobody has said anything yet, but otherwise I would actually have a huge problem because there's just no way to display two very different types of items on a 4-foot table. So I'm hoping that this is okay. I ended up bringing some lights because from last year I already knew that the lighting inside the tent is kind of bad. So yeah, that is why I wanted to bring some lights. I ordered 2 of these little clippable lights that I clipped to each one of my little shelves. So right now it looks like a pretty good lighting situation. We will see how long they last. I've actually not tried that out. There is another crocheter, but she makes very different items than I do. She doesn't make any plushies. She just makes keychains and stuff from cotton, so little trinkets and stuff like that. So very different. She's also in the other tent and not in my tent, so I think that that is a very good situation to be in. There is nobody else selling candles either, so I'm thinking that I have a pretty good situation going on. So we now have around 40 minutes until the market starts. I just went to a bakery around the corner and I picked up a very good looking tomato and mozzarella sandwich, which I will absolutely destroy right now. I only had breakfast this morning and nothing else since. So that is my plan for now. And then I will go back into my little tent, get like completely set up, like take my little bag where I have all of my yarn and stuff. And then I will obviously be crocheting and waiting until the market starts. And I'm really interested to see how many people will show up tonight because, as I said, it's pretty warm. I actually got super hot just with my sweater on when setting up. So it's very warm. It's very nice weather out, and there's a lot of vendors that were there last year as well. Not necessarily when I was there. They mostly came after my time at this market, so I haven't met any of them. But we were just chatting when setting up, and they're also kind of worried that there might not be a ton of people showing up. But we will see about that. I will now have a late lunch and then I will see you guys for market day 1. Hey friends, so little chaotic check-in. As you might be able to tell, it's now the next day, so I'm about to head back into the venue and start market day 2. It's like a quarter till 12 and the market today is from 12 to 10, but I wanted to do a little check-in and talk about yesterday for just a second. So I didn't really take you guys along. I'm very sorry about that, but I don't really know. Like the vibes were a little off yesterday, so it's hard for me to describe in words. We did okay yesterday, not as good as we did last year on Friday, but last year was also like a week later. So that might be why people are not as much into like the Christmas spirit yet. But still we did okay. We already made back the booth fee, not just for this weekend, but as you know, I will be going back to this market for another 9 days closer to Christmas. So we made back the booth fee for all 11 days yesterday and then some. So that's pretty good, but the booth fee is also pretty cheap. So for the 11 days, I paid 175 euros, so that is all paid back for now. And I Yeah, yesterday I had a couple of frustrating experiences with little kids. So there were a couple of groups of little kids that were like at the market with their parents, but the parents kind of let them go unsupervised at the market, and they would always like come into all of the tents and be very energetic, and they kept touching all of the plushies and kind of playing with them a little rough. And one girl tried to walk out of the tent with the plushie in hand, so I had to tell her that she had to get her mom to come into the tent with her if she wanted to show it to her mom. And it was just like very high energy and not very considerate that these were plushies that don't belong to them. And it's always kind of a difficult situation for me to deal with that, because they're obviously not my kids. I don't want to yell at them or something, so it's kind of difficult. They were also like, the tents are super small, and there were like 5 or 6 kids that would always stand in front of my table so that like other people couldn't really look at my things, or they would like squeeze by other people standing in front of my table, and so the other people would kind of like back off and walk on and look at other booths. So that was kind of frustrating. I'm hoping that today might be better about that. I don't mind when kids look at things and touch things, but sometimes it just can get a little much, especially when it's large groups and they keep coming back and being very out there. So we will see about that. I will now go ahead and head back into my tent, get set up for day 2, and we will see what happens today. I will try and film a couple more clips at the venue today. So yeah, let's go. Let's start market day 2.
Die sind schon sehr, sehr süß.
Dankeschön.
Kann ich denn mit Karten? Ja, du kannst auch mit Karten zahlen. Ich muss gut auf die aufpassen. Aber schön. Okay. Braucht ihr denn eine Tüte dazu? Das geht auch. Genau, dann sind es 32. Wunderbar. Dann vielen Dank, viel Spaß euch damit. Ciao. Genau, die sind alle geregelt. Genau, ja, das hat so als kleines Hobby angefangen und dann ist es so ein bisschen eskaliert. Meine sagte mir, häkeln kann jeder, ich hab's einmal so wie diesen 150. Ich bin aggressiv geworden. Ja, klar, gerne. Brauchst du eine Tüte dazu? Ja, gerne. Ja, ich habe so eine Papiertüte. Bar oder Karte? Ja, klar. Na klar, gerne. Das freut mich. Dann sind es 10 bei dir. Dankeschön. Vielen Dank. Ja, das ist wie so eine Suppe inzwischen. Ich sehe das. Ja, schon. Also für mich, ich weiß nicht. Es gibt wahrscheinlich auch Leute, die werden wahnsinnig, wenn die das machen müssten. Ja, genau. Ja, die sind ja so im Trend, deswegen dachte ich mir, ich muss jetzt auch mal einen machen. Ich habe Anleitungen, genau. Ich habe aber inzwischen auch ein paar, die ich selber geschrieben habe. So, wirklich selber ausgedacht. Dankeschön. Ich meine, das ist flexibel einsetzbar. In denen ist ja auch kein Ball drin, sondern die sind ja einfach nur so von der Form halt am besten. Aber ja. Ich habe auch noch mehr Farben, um es noch komplizierter zu machen. Mit der richtigen Farbe. Ja, genau, das ist dann so größer. So wie ein echt aussehbar. Kann man so wie ein echt aussehen, oder so. Blau? Dann nehmen wir den blauen. Den kleinen oder den großen? Ich glaube den kleinen, gerne. Dann sind es 6 bei euch. Ja. 6. Ja, wunderbar, Kleingeld ist immer super. Dankeschön, dann viel Spaß damit. Bei dir den Infos gerne. Ja. Brauchst du eine Tüte oder geht es so? Okay, dann sind es 6 Euro bei dir. Wie lange sind es am Ding? Bei den Kleinen, ich bin ja inzwischen relativ schnell, also ich brauche ungefähr eine Viertelstunde für die Kleinen. Dann vielen Dank, schönen Abend noch. Ja, viel Erfolg noch. Dankeschön. Yeah, sure. I will wrap it up for you. Would you like a bag for it as well? Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay friends, so I'm now back from the market. It's now a couple days after this market and I wanted to check in with you guys and give you a little recap of the first Christmas market of 2025. So this is so exciting. I'm so happy to finally be in the season that I have been preparing for since like June of this year. So yeah, let's talk about the first Christmas market. So as I told you before in the beginning of this video, I did this market last year as well. I did this market as a 3-day event last year. So that was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And the market runs from now until Christmas, or like the day before Christmas, which over here is the 23rd of December. But they have like different time slots that you can book with this market. So they have the first week, which is not a whole week, but just Friday and Saturday that I just did. And then Sunday was closed because it was a holiday where Christmas markets aren't allowed to be open. And now, starting yesterday, which was Monday, they have weekly slots that you can book. So some people are there for just a week and some people are there for longer. And as I think I mentioned earlier in this video, I will be back at this market. I booked the first slot, which just happened, and then I also booked the final slot, which is a longer slot, so that is 9 days. So it's like the whole week before Christmas, so Monday to Sunday, and then the Monday and the Tuesday, which is the 22nd and the 23rd of December, because they kind of like ended up smushing the final 2 slots together, and you were able to either book the whole 9 days or not book that slot at all. So I decided to go big and book the whole 9 days. So we will see all about that. That will be the final Christmas market of the season. Before then we have 3 more markets, which is kind of scary, but let's talk about the first one. So the booth fee, I also mentioned that earlier in this video. The booth fee for the whole entire 11 days was so cheap. It was 175 euros because they ended up switching it up from last year. So last year the booth fee was 20 euros per day, and this year they decided to switch it up completely and kind of have a more environmentally friendly approach to having a Christmas market. So they decided, they already have the venue usually, so they completely scratched the booth fee, but instead decided to actually donate all of the fees that people paid for this market as kind of like a compensation for the carbon emissions that this market will emit. Kind of, I'm not sure if I'm explaining that right, but to make it like carbon neutral, they charge you a fee which will then be used to compensate your carbon emission as a vendor at this market, which I think is a really cool approach, and I've never had a market like that. So I'm really excited to be a part of a market like this. So yeah, I ended up making all of that back. I already told you that, and that feels kind of good because then I will be going into the other 9 days with a more relaxed mindset since I already made that back. And then I did spend 11 euros per day for parking in the city because it's not free where this market is. So that is kind of hefty. It's almost the same as my booth fee each day. But this time around, as I had to set up on Friday and then break down on Saturday, I kind of had to go by car every single day when I do this market again later on in the season. And I will be set up there for 9 days. I think I will only go by car the first day and then like the last day, and maybe like once or twice in between when I have to restock more things. But in between that, I will be going by train and saving some money there, since I will then just buy like a monthly train ticket, and that will be a lot cheaper than 11 euros per day. So that is a plan for later on, and that were kind of like the fees that I had to pay for this market. The hours of this market on Friday were from 4 to 10, but the market runs until 11. But like the inside vendors, so all of us in the two little tents, were allowed to close up at 10, just to like make the market a little more quiet and kind of like have it die down naturally. On Friday, we ended up staying open until 10:30 around ish. So nobody like comes and tells you to close up. It's kind of like allowed at this point. They kind of allow you to close your booth at 10, but they don't reinforce it. So our tent was actually quite busy on Friday night, and a lot of people started shopping like right before 10. So of course, we pretty much all decided that we would stay a little longer, except for one of the vendors in my tent. She had to leave, so she kind of like covered up her booth and left at 10, and we were all kind of watching that nothing got stolen from her booth since she wasn't there anymore, but there were still people shopping inside. And then on Saturday, it was kind of the same thing. We were allowed to close up at 10. The market started at noon, so that was already quite a long day. And then originally in the email they sent out, they told us that we weren't allowed to break down our booth on Saturday evening since the market would go on until midnight. But we would have to come back on Sunday and then we would be able to break down our booth. But all of us in our tent kind of like were talking, and a lot of other vendors in my tent came from kind of further away. I was one of the closest and I had to drive for half an hour. So we all kind of like collectively decided that we would actually break down our booths on Saturday evening and kind of keep it very low key and not like everybody at the same time. And we ended up doing that. Everybody was like carrying out things here and there after 10, and all of us were done by 11 and nobody said anything. The organizers weren't angry or anything. So it ended up working out fine, but we also kept it like very low key and weren't disturbing any of the market goers that were still at the market outside. So I think that worked out very well and everybody was very considerate, but it was kind of weird that they told us that beforehand. So as I will be going back for another 9 days of this market, this felt like kind of like a trial for the real deal, which will be happening later on in the season. So I kind of wanted to try out a setup that would work for all 9 days. And here is what I did. I already showed you that earlier in the video. And I'm not sure how I'm feeling about it. It looks very, very crowded, but at the same time, I really need all of the space that I can get in this booth. The table is really tiny. It's only 1.20 meters or 4 feet. So a tiny, tiny setup. And yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the setup. Let me know down in the comments what you would improve on with my setup. I have two very different types of items, so plushies and candles, and I kind of need to display both of them, which in the end feels like I'm not giving anything enough space in my booth. So if you have any like creative ideas what I could try out for the next time I go back to this market, let me know down in the comments. I'm open to try anything to make it look more like cohesive and nicely set up for the second time around. But I think it ended up working out fine for this time around. I just wasn't very happy with the look of it, since I usually prefer more like clean setups, and that's not really possible when you are very cramped in a small space. All right, so now after I talked your ear off about what the whole like situation was like, let me get into some of the numbers of this market. So on Friday, it was kind of slow. It was way slower than last year, and I was kind of worried after Friday, but Saturday more than made up for that. So I did worse on Friday than I did last year, but I did way better on Saturday than I did last year. So on Friday, we had 34 orders and we sold 47 items for a total of 495 euros. And then on Saturday, we had 64 orders with a total of 81 items for a total amount of 1,437 euros, which is pretty good for a very, very early Christmas market. So I'm only expecting that like average of every day to go up the second time around, because it's like way more closer to Christmas and people will be shopping way more for Christmas gifts than they were at this time around. But we will see, I guess. I will be back. So in total, I ended up selling 22 of my candles and 106 of my plushies, which is scary. I made 340 euros from candles and 1,097 euros from plushies, which by this number you can already tell that a lot more of my smaller 10 euros and less plushies sold, which is a good thing because I can replace those way easier. So let's get into the top 5 bestsellers, and I think that a lot of those had to do with where in my booth they were placed. So in number 5 we have my mallard ducks, and those were kind of like placed on a very top shelf in front of my table, and I think that was a very good spot for a plushie to be in. So I sold 9 of those for 10 euros each, and that is very good because I can replace those super easy. I ended up making mallard duck bodies at my market, and I ended up prepping a total of 9 of them again. So I still need to finish them up, but I can replace those pretty quickly, so that's good. And then in number 3 we have 2 different types of plushies. So first of all, we have my penguins, which are like the same pattern as the mallard ducks, but like different color changes, and they were also placed on that top shelf, so that really grabbed a lot of attention from people. So I sold 10 of those for 10 euros each. Then also in top 3 are my mini penguins, which are not a huge surprise. They ended up doing so well at my previous market, so I was really hoping for those to do well, and I had prepped a total of 50 of them, so I still have a good stock left. So these were also pretty popular, and I sell them for 6 euros each. Then number 2 we have another type of mini item, which are my baby whales, and they were kind of like on the shelf below that, so in like really good eyesight for little kids. So I sold 14 of those, which is so many, for 6 euros each. And then can you guess what the number 1 bestseller of this market was? Of course, it was my baby octos, as usual, and I don't think you're ready for the number that sold. I sold 24 of those, which is crazy. That is insane. That is almost half of them that I had. So I really need to stock up on these in the near future. So these were such a bestseller yet again, which is crazy. The numbers in which these baby octos fly off my table are crazy, and they have been crazy this entire year. I am really interested to see at the end of the year how many of those I will have sold. It must have been over 100 already, and I think that they will be popular throughout the winter season. And then as a final little detail of this market, something that really surprised me were my cats. I didn't sell a singular one of my cats, which I don't think has ever happened at a market. So I'm not sure if it was the placement they were in my booth or what else was going on with those. But usually these do so well, and this I didn't even sell a single one. So we will see what happens with those throughout the winter season. We have the next winter market coming up next week, so stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for hanging out with me in this video and watching it all the way until the end. And I will see you guys again next week for another video. So until then, bye!